Live now. Okay, and we are live. Freelance Business Week 2020 here with our friend and colleague Terry Rice from New York. Thank you, Terry, for coming. Thank you, everyone, for being here at Freelance Business Week. Just a quick reminder that you can actually chat in the comments below. We'll be able to see the comments. If you have any questions, there will be several opportunities to have those questions answered during the talk. So just feel free to leave those questions in the chat, and we'll show them on the screen so that everyone can see them. If you like this talk at any point in time, right on the schedule next to the stream, please just click upvote so that someone will create a report at the end of Freelance Business Week, just showing the engagement on different sessions. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Terry Rice. He'll be talking about marketing optimization for entrepreneurs on LinkedIn. He's got a great resume and a great career, so very excited to hear from him. Hope you're as excited as I am. So we have 11 viewers as of now, so take it off, Terry.
Cool, 11 viewers, awesome. So where are you all calling in from, out of curiosity? I'm in Brooklyn, New York, but for those of you that are on already, where are you located? Let's see here.
It might take a little bit, but
or we can do that momentarily. So let me just go ahead and get started here. So my background, I'll share with you. I've been working as a business consultant for independently the last 5 years, primarily helping entrepreneurs monetize their knowledge. So maybe you're a consultant, maybe you're a coach, some kind of knowledge-based entrepreneur, but my goal is to help you grow your brand and your revenue. Also, I'm a contributor to Entrepreneur Magazine, so it fits in pretty well there. So I contribute both to the print version of the magazine as well as the website, and consult internally and externally on best practices for growing a business. Before all that, I actually worked at Facebook as a client solutions manager. So essentially an internal consultant for Facebook, working with clients like BarkBox, Bonobos, Warby Parker, so mostly e-commerce. Before all that, I was a search engine marketing consultant at Adobe, pretty much doing the same thing, but with paid search marketing. And I see there's some people here from Buffalo. I actually went to school in Buffalo, went to the University at Buffalo for undergrad and business school. And UB just got named the number 34 public university in the world. So pretty proud of that. So we have people from Wichita, Miami, Austin. I've been down there several times for South by Southwest. Great city. But let's go ahead and get into it. But what I'd love for you to do is in the chat window, just let me know like what kind of freelancer you are. What do you do? Just for a frame of reference. But my goal here today is to show you how you can leverage LinkedIn to grow your brand and your revenue in a way without trying to master any kind of complex algorithms or spending money, especially on advertising. It's basically you just sharing your knowledge with your audience in a way that attracts them to you. It makes them want to say, hey, how can I work with this person? How can I work with Angie or Ashley or Margie or Amanda based on what you're doing, right? So Amy, being a copywriter, she's going to keep me honest on best practices for how to write everything. But again, that's the goal here, is to show you how to get rewarded for who you are, not just what you do, by building a personal brand on LinkedIn. And Stephanie, I see she's an expert in branding and messaging, so she's going to help us out with that as well. But let's keep it moving here. One thing I want to bring up is if you are a knowledge-based entrepreneur, again, like some kind of freelancer, consultant, coach, I have this free course you can check out, which is going to go a bit more in depth into what we're talking about today in regards to how to attract clients with this 6-step marketing plan. There's a link to it right there. I'll also pop it in the chat window as well, but it's a free course. It'll probably take you about a week to get through it. And it'll make sure that you're actually applying what you're learning through this process. So if you want to check that out, go for it, but I will put it in the chat window as well momentarily. Let's keep it moving here. One other thing I should have brought up, I am also a father of 3 children. That's probably going to become a parent very soon. So if you hear any background noise, their mom's watching them. So I'm not abandoning my children for this, just so you know. But I'm sure a lot of you are going through the same thing. And I'm glad that you're here and chose to do this and raise your kids as opposed to do this or raise your kids. So glad that you took the time to be here if that's something you have going on as well. Cool. So here is the agenda for today. I want to walk through how to optimize your profile in a way that you'll show up when people are searching for you and make the best impression as well. And I'll give you some tips and tricks that might not seem too apparent at first glance. And then how do you create compelling content? How do you express your zone of genius on LinkedIn by the content that you create, right? So Michelle Baker, I see she's on here. I know she's an expert with that too. And then making the right connections. You know, one goal of being on LinkedIn is to grow your network. So how do you connect with the right people who are either going to help you advance your business or your knowledge? And then lastly, playing the long game, realizing, hey, we're not trying to get rich quick. We're in this for the long term and building deep relationships as opposed to being very transactional in the way that we interact with people. So that's the agenda. But getting right into it, the first thing is your LinkedIn profile optimization. So this is what people are going to see when they land on your profile, and you want to make sure that you're making a very good first impression. So a few things is there's no magic bullet about how you're going to approach this. It's going to vary based on your audience, how much content you produce. Can you do video? Is it just mostly text, so on and so forth? Also, how many clients or customers do you want to attract? One of my business partners, he normally only has about 10 clients at a time, but he charges between $50,000 and $250,000 per client. So that's all he really needs, right? So if you don't need a ton of clients, then you don't necessarily have to be as active on the platform, but just keep that in mind as you're thinking about how often you want to produce content and how active you want to be as well. But getting right into it, super important, your headline and your headshot. You want to make sure you're attracting the right audience with your headline, right? It's the first thing people see on your picture. So you want to use keywords that your audience will search for, right? So if you're a graphic designer, you want to make sure you have graphic design somewhere in your profile there. If you're a youthful mindfulness coach like Wendy, you want to make sure you say that in your profile as well, because it's more or less your micro brand. When someone looks at your profile, they're like, okay, what do you do? Who do you do it for? But it's also the terms they're searching for too. So if you don't include those terms in your title and in your bio, you will not show up when someone's looking for a youth mindfulness coach like Wendy is. So very important to do that. I'll give you a few examples. This is my buddy Mike Koenigs. And if you look at his profile, he says, I help experts build empires and personal brands. He's the host of this podcast. He's an entrepreneur. He's an investor and an author. So these are the keywords he wants to show up for: podcast host, investor, entrepreneur, author. And if you look at it, again, he understands this is his micro brand. So everything he does is very intentional. It says, get paid for who you are, not what you do. Talks about him being featured in Success Magazine, CNN, Fox, ABC, so on and so forth. So he's building his brand here. And I'll bring this up later, but it's very important that all of you especially make sure you have a good cover photo, not just a headshot, but a cover photo as well, to just further iterate on who you are and what you do and who you do it for. So that's Mike. I'm going to show you Amina. Amina Altai is a holistic business coach. If you ask her what she does, she says, I'm a holistic business coach, meaning she'll help you grow your business, but the nuts and bolts of business, but also like your personal health, through meditation, through the right nutrition, so on and so forth. But she does not say she's a holistic business coach here because no one's really looking for a holistic business coach. So to save time and space, she says, I'm a business coach helping female entrepreneurs and leaders make work a place they freaking love. Now, some people might see that and say, why are you saying freaking in your title? It might turn some people off. Amina is doing that on purpose because she happens to swear a lot. She says, hey, if we can't swear, we can't be friends. So she's showing her personal brand right now. I'm the type of person who says this. If you're aligned with that, cool, let's talk. Maybe we can work together. If that turns you off, fine. So remember, when you're building a personal brand, you're not trying to appeal to everybody, right? You're better off being Nickelback. Nickelback is one of the most hated bands in the world. If you Google most hated band in the world, Nickelback always shows up. But their fans who love them really love them to the point where they're one of the most successful Canadian bands ever. So you want to be Nickelback, even though some people don't like them. I don't think they're that bad. But either way, you want to make sure you're polarizing. Because if you try to please everyone, you're not going to seem like you're really focused on anyone. So you want to be more niche the way you approach this. Another person here, this is Justin Doyle. Justin is an executive coach. He normally helps people that work at hedge funds and other financial firms just kind of get out of their own way. Maybe they're a bit depressed. Maybe they're just feeling like unfulfilled, so on and so forth. And when I first met Justin, I'm like, do you want to become a coach or a consultant? And he's like, I know there's an operational difference, but really I want to use the term that people are searching for the most. So you want to make sure that your title is a term someone searches for. In this case, he chose executive coach, One tool you can use to figure that out is Google Trends. Yes or no in the chat window, have you heard of Google Trends or not? It's a tool that will help you determine the search volume for certain terms. So for example, the term could be pants versus slacks. You will see which people search for more. Is it pants or slacks? And if you're advertising slacks, maybe you call them pants instead if pants is more popular. So yes or no, have you heard of Google Trends before? It's this really cool tool that will show you the search volume for terms that you want to show up for. And while you're doing that, I'll show you the results for the term executive coach. Cool, free tool here. Angie, yes. Michelle, yes. Diane, yes. Wendy, nope. Sienna, nope. Few of you, yes. Few of you, no. Cool. So if you look at Google Trends data, the term executive coach gets way more searches than executive consultant. So in your case, maybe you're a digital marketer. You say, should I say online marketer or digital marketer? Whichever one has the most search results, because they're somewhat synonymous. So this is a tool you can use to make sure you're using the most popular terms in your title, right? And this can carry over to your website as well. So we're talking about search engine optimization at this point. But it's being very, very driven in how we decide to describe ourselves in this case. Also, make sure you use a professional photo. My first photo was like me at a bar where I just cropped someone's arm off my shoulder or whatever. It wasn't very good at all. And I think a lot of us who previously worked in-house at a corporate job, we weren't on LinkedIn that much, so it didn't really matter. You're just like, okay, I'll just throw a photo up. But if you want to grow your personal brand, you want to have a real photo, so a plain background. You can even take it with your phone if you need to, but you don't want to have like people around you or like a background that might be a bit distracting. You want to have it plain or neutral. Also, make sure you're smiling because you want to look approachable, and also include a header in your background as well. So if you go to my my LinkedIn, there's me looking up, smiling at something, but that cover there, that's your call to action, right? So if I'm Amanda, I'm going to say, hey, learn more about my services. I do this, that, and that. Or if I'm Angie, I'm going to say, hey, download my free quiz, this. If I'm Wendy, I'm going to say, you know, as featured in so on and so forth. But don't waste this space. First of all, by just having like that plain blue background, or not having a call to action. Like, don't have a picture of some mountains. Have a good call to action. What do you want people to do when they go to your profile outside of just reading it? So in my case, that's where you see me referencing this free mini course that I have, because that's what I want people to do. Learn more about me, but if you're going to do one kind of conversion action here, it's going to be for you to go ahead and check out that mini course. So that's the goal here. I'm going to stop. There's a question. How do you define the difference between coaching and consulting? I'll answer that part first. So coaching is when you work with a client, but you ask them questions to bring the answer out of themselves. So if someone's like, hey, Terry, what should I write about next week? I would say, well, you know your audience better than I do. What do you think they want to hear about? That's coaching. Consulting would be, well, right now COVID's going on and there's a lot of people that are going through career changes. So maybe talk about career changing. So consulting is when you give information and direction, bespoke direction, whereas coaching is when you try to pull the answers out of your of the person that you're working with. Now, I don't think there's a problem with identifying yourself as both. That's what I do. So for me, I have this a group coaching program where I teach consultants, freelancers, so and so forth how to grow their brand and their business. But there's 3 C's to it. At its core, there's this on-demand course you can go through at your leisure. Then I do coaching calls twice a week, where someone asks me a question. I'm like, okay, based on your audience, what do you think will be a good fit, so on and so forth. But I also offer one-on-one consulting as a different layer of that service. So you can do both, that's fine. Another question, is the text in the cover graphic searchable through LinkedIn keywords? No. So if it's just a graphic, no. Which is why it's so important to make sure that you have like written text in your title and your bio, as well as your work history, using those keywords there. And Marjorie, if there were 2 keywords you could maybe use, online marketing versus digital marketing, it makes sense to say online marketing in some sections and then digital marketing in others. That way you'll be more likely to show up based on these searches. So that's why. But yeah, keep the questions coming. Don't feel like you're interrupting me. Like I said, I have 3 kids, so I get interrupted all the time, and I'm used to it. But we are going to keep rolling here because I want to make sure we get through all this content. Featured content. Let me go back. Yes or no, do you have featured content on your LinkedIn profile? That goes directly below your bio. Directly below your title. This is where you can upload videos. It can be articles you've written or very popular posts. I'll show you what it looks like. But don't waste this real estate. So on mine, you see I have this founder video. I have my speaker reel for speaking engagement, so on and so forth. But featured content is going to stand out more than anything on your profile outside of your initial cover and headshot because it's so huge. And this is relatively new. This is maybe like 9 months old. But if you're not using featured content, then you're definitely missing out on a great feature, not to use the same word twice, within LinkedIn. So if I'm Sienna, maybe it's a link to my website, my services page. So Libby, maybe you have a link to a case study. Angie, it could be some handy how-to guide. Whatever it is you want to call attention to, you would do it in this featured content. It can be articles. It can be links to your website. It can be a post you wrote before too. It can be whatever you want. But if you're not using featured content, then you're missing out. Amanda, can you rearrange the order of featured content? Yes, you can. You have to kind of do it manually though. So you have to re-upload stuff in whatever order you want. But yes, you can rearrange that order. Diane, awesome. So Diane has videos and interviews and TV show appearances, as well as articles she's written in her featured content. Perfect. That's how you build your brand because, hey, maybe you have those on your website somewhere. Maybe you mention them somewhere in your bio. But heck, if you can have it right in front of someone as soon as they go to your profile, all the better. And someone's saying it also could be a photograph. Hashtag Nickelback. Oh, I get it. Oh my God. The puns. Anyways, that was funny. But anyways, yeah, it can be whatever you want. But when you're doing this, you should say, what's the purpose, right? So for Diane, she's saying, look, I'm someone who does interviews and has been on TV. So if you want someone to interview, here's an example of what I've done before. You can see it right now, right? So for me, I have my speaker reel up there because I speak. I do right now, right? I do public speaking. So I want to have that there. Marjorie's saying, do I think it would be beneficial to upload clips, even if they're from 5 years ago? As long as it's still relevant. If you had a different career 5 years ago and you're talking about pet sitting, no. But if it's still relevant, I think it's great. I don't see a problem with that. When I add a caption pointing out the renewed relevance, yeah, absolutely. You could say, when I gave this talk 5 years ago, we obviously didn't see COVID, on the radar, but it's even more important right now. So one article that I wrote last year was about this woman, Dory Clark, who has 9 income streams. And I think right now people are like, I need more income streams. So I wrote it a year ago, but it's still relevant. And I could say, revisiting one of my favorite articles, 9 incomes and counting, why Dory Clark has this line of business. So yeah, go for it. As long as it's relevant, go for it. I think it's fine. You don't have to reinvent the wheel whatsoever. But the goal here is not to waste this space, right? Because you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of this opportunity. All right, here's the hard part, creating compelling content. I find a lot of people don't post on LinkedIn as often as they want to because they're concerned about what they would write. You feel like you want to sound smart. On Instagram, it's like, oh, I had brunch, it was great. On LinkedIn, it's like, I have to dissect the current climate of commercial real estate and sound intelligent, right? So sometimes we get in our own way by almost just being paralyzed to the point where you don't create any content. And that's to your detriment because if someone's researching you, if they're like, hey, I want to work with this mindfulness coach, but you never say anything about mindfulness, you're never chiming in on these conversations. It's like, well, how come you're not involved in the community? So you're making a statement by not making a statement. So you do want to be active on LinkedIn by creating content. And there's no silver bullet on how to do it because it should be a function of your industry, your expertise, and your creativity. But I do want to give you some tips on how to do that. So first thing is create content for your audience. There's 800 million people on LinkedIn. You probably only care about 5 or 10,000. So again, Nickelback, right? That's what you want to do. And also, don't chase likes, because you should never associate your self-worth or your intelligence with the number of likes, shares, or comments you get. You want to focus on impact. So some of the people that I work with, they'll put a post up and only like 5 or 10 people like it, but they're very niche. They're only talking to female pilots, for example, right? So you don't have to worry about necessarily, getting a bunch of likes and shares, so long as your target audience is aligning with it. That guy Justin that I showed you, sometimes the content he puts up, people don't engage with whatsoever. Because they'll say, "Hey, are you lonely and depressed at your job? Do people not understand why you make, $250,000 a year and you're still sad? I understand you. You should talk to me." No one's going to like that post, but they will direct message him or go to his website and say, "Hey, man, you put that thing out there the other day and I was feeling it. I really appreciate it. How can we talk? I want to see if I can work with you." So don't worry necessarily about the amount of engagement you are getting. Just keep at it, because as long as you're creating content for your audience, you will get an impact from it. But the easiest thing you can do is, if you want to have this very easy content marketing strategy, think of 10 questions your audience has and then answer them. That's it, right? So it could be, "Hey, as a freelancer, how do I increase my rates?" That's a common question, right? So I would answer that. I would say, well, solve more expensive problems, offer premium service, find an audience who would value your services more, so on and so forth. But all of you know what's going on inside of your audience's head. So think of 10 questions that they have and then answer them with content. That's all you have to do, because questions create content. And as a result of that, people will chime in and say, "Oh, this is great. Thanks for sharing, so on and so forth. By the way, I have another question. Can you help me with this?" So to reiterate, if you're short on time, just think of 10 questions your audience has and answer them with content. That's all you have to do. If you do one a week, you'll have 2.5 months worth of content. Super easy. So one question I get all the time is, how much should a consultant charge for their services? So I answer that with my content. And on this part, I said, spoiler alert, if you want to increase your rate, solve more expensive problems. Normally I tease out more of a response in this. And then I said, if you want to read this article I wrote about it, the link is in the first comment. That link in the first comment is very important. If you link off of LinkedIn and put it in the actual post, you will get less reach for the post, meaning LinkedIn will show it to less people. Reason being, people spend about 2 minutes per day on LinkedIn. So what they don't want them to do is see your post and then click off to your website. That's why it's important to put the link to any kind of external source and a comment, not in the actual post. Hopefully that makes sense. But again, I'll reiterate it. Make sure that you put the links in the external links in a comment, not in a native post. I got a question. How do you get the high net worth clients? You solve high net worth problems, or you position yourself as someone who can solve their unique problems. So often it's not like, what do I have to do differently? It's how are you positioning yourself? So with Justin, the guy I talked about, when I first met him early 2018, I think he was making like $2,000 a month as a coach. And then he just kept on writing content just for his audience. Are you an executive coach going through this problem, that problem, that problem? It was just for them, to the point where like, this guy knows me. And I talked to him, and he feels comfortable with me sharing this. I talked to him earlier this year. In 2019, he made $400,000 just by answering questions for executive coaches. So, how do you get the high net worth clients? Is you speak to them specifically and say, "I understand your your problems, and the impact it's having on your life, and here's the solution to it." So there's 3 steps: problem, impact, and then your solution, right? That's how you do it. Cool. So more questions, keep them coming, because that's what I do. And along those lines, one thing that I've been doing is just recording myself answering questions. So one question I get all the time is, how do I deal with rude, difficult clients? And I just said, drop them. Don't work with them anymore. But I literally recorded like 30 of these videos. They're like a minute long tops over the period of 2 hours, like in my 2-year-old son's his bedroom. And these are the videos that I have going out where I'm just answering questions real quick. But it's not just me answering the question, it's someone understanding my personality and how I would address that question. So how do you deal with really difficult clients? Someone might say, oh, just work with them and try to come to a mutual understanding of what respect means. I said just dump them because it's not worth your self-respect or your time, and it's very toxic, right? That's my response. So if someone sees that, like, you know what, this guy, I like him. I like his approach. He's very blunt, and he's like, you're worth more than the effort you would have to put towards getting this person to act right. So that's something you can do too, right? Just think of these 10 questions and then answer them with content. Super easy. These are like 30 seconds long. You can go to my LinkedIn and check them out, but it just answers questions that people have. Super simple. But here's the thing, and this part's really, really important. So just lock in on this. It can't just be a bunch of how-to content. Here's why. Being an expert is a prereq. You don't get any points for being an expert at whatever you do. You're supposed to be an expert. People want to work with people that they know, like, and trust. So they want to see your personality too, right? So it's not just like, here's how you do digital marketing. It's like, hey, I know digital marketing is changing all the time, and it's it's a concern that you might have. That's why you really want to focus just on a few channels and save like 20% of your time every week to learn these things. But realize you should have a growth mindset anyways, and you should always be embracing these challenges as they come along, not becoming frustrated by it, right? So that's the way to position it. So you build your personal brand by expressing your personality and sharing those experiences as well, okay? So let me give you a few examples of that. This is one post I had that went out, I guess, a week ago, and it's really dealing with what we're doing right now. I'm talking to you. You might hear my kids yelling in the background. My wife might have moved them in a different room, not sure. And for the first few months of COVID, I was always just like concerned about that. But then I realized I cannot be the best version of myself if I'm distracted by what my kids are doing and worried about how you're perceiving it or how it's landing with you, because I'm in two places at one time. So I said, hey, this is my post. I said, people don't care about your kids. Here's how I found out. Whenever I kept on apologizing for them, people always said, it's okay, I can barely hear them, don't worry about it. So that first line is like a hook. And it's very important to have that first line be this like eye-catching content. People don't care about your kids. What do you mean? Let me stop scrolling and pay attention. Here's how I found out. Oh, wow, tell me more. This guy's telling a story. For the past few months, so on and so forth. To see the rest, you have to hit that see more button. And that see more button click is a signal to LinkedIn that you have good content. Because people are like, wait, what? I want to see more. So when LinkedIn sees people are engaging with your content by hitting see more, they will then show it to more people because they're like, well, this makes people stop scrolling and pay attention. So this came out a week ago, and I'm not counting numbers all the time, but it got like 27,000 views, 260 likes, 60 comments or whatever, right? And Marjorie, yeah, it's a clever hook, but the thing with that hook is you have to deliver good content after that hook. I can't say free pizza, and at the end it's like, haha, psych, right? That's not good. If you hook someone with that good content, it's on you to deliver. Otherwise, it really is like clickbait, right? But in this case, I said, people don't care about your kids. Here's how I found out. And then I said, hey, you'll never be the best version of yourself if you're distracted by, what you think they were perceiving, right? So that was like the tip I gave at the end. So it actually did deliver on the promise I made by having this clever hook, right? Keep that in mind. And I know we have a lot of copywriters here who can do this far better than me, but it's really important because like one of my, and I'm not making fun of this person, hopefully she's not on the call, but one of my clients was advertising these upcoming workshops she had, like digital marketing workshops. And her opening line was, who misses group trainings? And I'm like, nobody, right? Like nobody misses group trainings. Instead, she should have said, hey, are you concerned about how to market your business during Q4? I have a group training coming up that's going to solve your problem, so on and so forth. So starting off with who misses group trainings, even though starting with the question is normally a good idea, in my opinion, didn't do any favors for her, right? So you want to make sure that you get someone to stop scrolling and start engaging by having this clever hook, right? And I'll give you more examples of that too. Another thing I did is I just shared how in 2009, I got laid off from this company on Wall Street. And I literally had $7 in my pocket. at one point. And then that went to me making over 6 figures working at Adobe within like 4 months. So I told that story and then shared it on LinkedIn as well. And I got like, I don't know, 1,200 reactions, 70,000 views, whatever it is. So what I'm saying is if you have like any kind of content that just shows your personality or your journey, you can put that on there too. It doesn't all have to be how-to content. So if you have a good blog on your website or whatever it may be, you can put that up as well, and that can be the content that you're producing. So I'll give you an example. The other day, I was stretching because I try to do what's called yin yoga, where you stay in like certain holds for like 4 minutes. I'm stretching, I'm leaning forward. I'm like, there's no way in heck I'm gonna get to be able to grab my toes. No way in heck it's gonna happen. But 4 minutes later, I was like, holy cow, I made it. And for me, that was like a metaphor for entrepreneurship, where, you know, for the longest time, you might think it's impossible, you don't see any progress, but if you keep on leaning into it and commit to it consistently, all of a sudden you might be like, well, let's hit this goal, right? So just me stretching can turn into content. So what I'm asking you to do is take a look at these micro moments that occur in your life and think, how can I turn this into a story and share that on LinkedIn as well, while tying it back to, you know, whatever you do, if it's a good fit. And for me, these ideas normally come to me when I'm washing the dishes or when I'm exercising, because you kind of get in that flow state. So give yourself the opportunity to let your mind drift and have these questions or these ideas come to you, and then make sure you jot them down. Because I'll tell you right now, the how-to content that I create, that gets far less views and engagement than me saying how I got laid off and I was sad, or how I enjoy stretching, right? Because everyone has the how-to content. You need that to prove that you're an expert. But again, it's your personality that'll often get more interaction and make people feel comfortable working with you. So you want to do that. Another thing, super, super important, especially if you're like, hey, you know, I don't know how to get this, you know, people to stop scrolling and pay attention, is to, again, use that engaging first line of text. And I'll show you a few examples of that. One thing I said before was, hey, are you not sure what content to write about on your social media or your website? Here's the easiest plan ever. Another one I had was, first of all, are you even interested in having this conversation? And then I went into saying how people should pre-qualify the outreach they do on LinkedIn more often, as opposed to just making these introductions, just saying I'd love to connect or whatever. But it's like that first line, first of all, are you even interested in having this conversation? People are like, what the hell are you talking about? And like, oh, wow, this makes sense. This guy's saying before like pitching yourself on LinkedIn, you should pre-qualify the audience. That was the moral of the story here. Another one I had was, I said, this is going to sound hypocritical, but here goes. And I talked about how sometimes I don't post as much on LinkedIn as I recommend people to do. And I said, the reason why is because every time I try, there's always someone screaming in the background, dad, 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 dad. And I'm like, so unfortunately, I don't have as much time to post sometimes. But when I don't have time, I make sure to engage with content, and you can do the same thing. So these are all the clever hooks that I've used recently. And again, you can go to my profile and check that out as well, but you want to make sure you're doing this, right? Something else to think about is to space your text out a bit more so it's easier to read on mobile. And don't do it in an annoying way, but even little things like putting like these bookmarks in here to spread it out a little bit, or bullet points, I should say, sorry. Because it can be hard to read, especially on mobile, if you have very dense content, where it's like these paragraphs upon paragraphs upon paragraphs. So spread it out a little bit, it makes it easier to read. And even this post, look how I started. I said, did you miss it? Miss what? And then I said, a lot of people, well, technically 4, have asked for a recording from my most recent webinar with this company. So here's the link to it in the description, but here's what it was about, right? So again, back to Marjorie's point, that clever hook, saying, did you miss it? Miss what? What are you talking about? And then going deeper into it. So let me stop here. Is this making sense, like the formula that we have here, more or less? It's like, sure, how-to content, make sure you do it, but then start with some kind of clever hook and then deliver. And then outside of that, show your personality as well. Because being an expert, that's a prereq. You don't get points for that. You get points for being likable and someone that people want to engage with. All right. And I am seeing a question here I can answer. This is back to pricing. Would you upload a rate sheet to post a list of services with fees upon request? You can upload a rate sheet if you want. I mean, if too many people are saying no because of the price, because maybe you're attracting the wrong audience, it could help. I think just a description of your services is probably like the better way to go about it. But let's say you're doing a workshop in Buffalo next week. You're gonna be at like ECC doing a workshop. Sure, say it's $500, right? Don't like be coy about it. But if you have like some other broader service, maybe your rate doesn't need to be on there. It's like, here's what I can do, and then wait to have a conversation before going into how much you charge. So with a product, you can potentially, a productized service, you can potentially put your rate on there. The benefit is if anyone reaches out to you, you know that's not going to be a problem. But let me answer a question you're not asking. In regards to the price, if someone ever says, oh, I'm kind of on the fence, the best question you can ask is this: hey, other than price, what would stop you from moving forward today? Best question you can ask. Other than price, what would stop you from moving forward and saying yes today? Then get to their real objections. Because you can explain why it's worth the price. If you're like, oh, you need help with this, I can do that. What's the ROI on that? Talk about that too. Now, also, what's the COI, the cost of inaction? You would say, well, what happens if you do nothing? Oh, this would happen, that would happen. Well, I can stop it from happening, but it's going to cost this much, right? So you always want to get a clear understanding of the cost of inaction, as well as the return on investment. So ROI and COI. So hopefully that helps. I know you didn't really answer that question, but I thought it was timely. What else? I struggle to show my own personality. I'm working so quickly to get social content done instead of taking the time to write down the best content. It's a chicken and egg thing. Okay, perfect. Here's how you create your social content ideas. And I'm going to ask you to visualize this, okay? So you're looking at an Excel sheet, and there's going to be 3 columns. The 3 columns are themes of what you want to be known as, or what you want to be known for, your personality, your personal brand. So bucket number 1 for me, column number 1 for me, is someone who knows about consulting and coaching and freelancing. Bucket number 2 is I'm really into mental health and physical health. So mindset, mindfulness, as well as this regular exercise. Bucket number 3 is just my personality, things that I think are funny. So you need to have these 3 buckets, okay? And then for each row, you can say, what kind of content am I going to produce? Is it going to be a video? Is it going to be a picture? Is it going to be commentary on another person's post that aligns with that? So, and some can be humorous. So one that I had under consulting and humorous the other day was, I hate 2-part questions. I started off by saying that, because I actually do. And I said, here's why. I'm trying to answer the first question in my head while you're answering the second question. And unfortunately, what happens is I give you a horrible answer to the first question, and I ask you to repeat the second question. So as I got older, I realized it makes more sense to say, look, I don't do 2-part questions. So that would be, the bucket would be consulting or coaching, and the column would be, or the row would be under humor. That's how you do it. But you just got to rapid fire get the content ideas out, then build a meat out later. That's how you do it.
Hey,
so
Terry,
hopefully yeah, go for it.
No, I'm just letting you know that we are on 4:40 time. That means that it's 15 minutes to our hard stop. So just letting you know, so far so good, man. I feel like I'm in a hyperbolic time chamber, just getting a bunch of information delivered to me. I have like a day's worth of information in 1 hour. So this is awesome, and I'm pretty sure the audience feels the same way. So just keep doing your thing, man. Just letting you know we still got 15 minutes, so there's plenty of breathing room.
Awesome, appreciate it, because I would go over. Mostly because I'm answering questions. Well, I'm answering questions people aren't answering, so that's probably why.
Yeah. I'm the same. Anyway, so floor's yours.
What's your favorite book? Yeah. Like, hey, what's your favorite podcast? Sure, glad you asked. Nobody. Here you go. Anyways, so let's keep it moving though. But also respond to every single comment, because it's not the Terry Rice show. It's a conversation you're having. So in this case, this guy was saying, hey, it's my third webinar. I went to yours. Hey, to my network, Terry's a really great speaker and motivator. I didn't make this up, by the way. This is real life. So I responded, hey, Alan, thanks. I appreciate it. Fair warning, I might start repeating some of my jokes, which is true. If you've been to a webinar before with me, you realize I repeated a joke. Probably. I don't know if I did or not. But anyways, respond to every single comment. But when you respond to a comment, try to keep the conversation going. Because in this case, if this guy, Alan, responds back, it's going to share out with his network, Alan commented on Terry's post. So every time that he comments on my post, it shares out to his network, Alan commented, Alan commented, Alan commented. So what I could have said is, hey, Alan, what's your favorite part about a workshop with me? And he might have said, hey, you're mildly funny, right? So if you can keep the conversation going with these comments, then you're going to be in a good spot to get more reach. So Diane's saying, how do you figure out these buckets, right? So mine, again, are coaching, consulting, freelancing, mindset, and physical health, and then just my personality. Diane, you just really think to yourself, how do I want to be perceived by my audience? And how can I show my personality in that as well? So if I'm a public speaking coach, one column has to be public speaking, but maybe I'm also really into the arts, or maybe I'm just, a really dedicated parent, whatever it is. But it's like, if you wanted to differentiate yourself from every other person who does that thing, what would be the other attributes you would want to speak to? That's the best way to think about it. And you yourself, you can ask your friends, like, hey, what are 3 things you think of when you think about me? Oh, Dan, yeah, we know what you do, but also, like, you're just a really good, you're really into health, whatever it is. And that could be part of it. So it's going to take some soul searching. It's not going to be something you get done in the next 10 minutes, because you're literally designing your personal brand, right? So if you think about The Rock, like the wrestler slash action hero, his buckets are, being an actor and an athlete. It's also being like a really good father. You always see him interacting with his kids, his daughters. And then the third is like, he's just like, kind of like a humanitarian, the way that he talks about things, right? So it's on you to decide what you want to be. But if you look at Vin Diesel, he's also an action movie star, doesn't have the same buckets, and doesn't make as much money either. Because if you look at Vin Diesel, it's just action sports or action movies, right? So you want to be The Rock and you want to be Nickelback, which are very different, but that's the way to think about it. What else? Follow relevant hashtags for your industry. So for me, it's going to be coaching, consulting, freelancing. For you, it might be graphic design, it might be mindfulness, it might be digital marketing, whatever it is. And then like, share, and comment on relevant posts. So really deep comments, not just like an emoji. Because if you're following someone who's a thought opinion leader in your industry, like Ariana Huffington or Gary Vaynerchuk or Jeff Bezos, or whatever it is, if you have a very strong, relevant comment, then people that are also engaging with that content will see it, and you might get more visibility for yourself. So someone that I follow is Simon Sinek. You might remember him from the whole, finding your why. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So recently I commented on one of his posts, and I just said, whatever I said here, that got 52 likes. Just my comments alone got 52 likes, and then 13 replies. Apparently I'm brilliant and truthful. I got to reply to these. But I could tell people were viewing my profile as a result of this comment too. So I always say, if you can't create content, you can at least engage, and you'll still get a reward from it as well. So, Diane, going back to you, you're going to think, okay, well, who are some thought opinion leaders that I want to follow now too? And when they post, I want to leave a very relevant comment on there, because then I can also get 52 likes and people reaching out to me saying, hey, I'd love to meet you, right? So super important to do that as well. Making the right connections. So there's a few ways to do this. You want to make sure you're connecting with relevant people, right? You don't want to be connected to like an industrial engineer unless you do industrial engineering. Usually you want to make sure you're reaching out to your target audience. One way to do it is the create then connect approach, where you post content and then connect with anyone who engages with it, so long as they're a high value person, right? So if I post something and I see Stephanie says, hey, Terry, great post, I appreciate your insights, I could reach out to Stephanie and say, hey, Stephanie, thanks so much for commenting on my post. By the way, I'd love to connect so we can learn from each other going forward. That's one way to grow your network, but you would only do that with people that you really want to connect with. but at least you always want to have an excuse. Why did you reach out to me? It's because of this, right? That's why. You can also reach out to high impact people and provide value in exchange for their attention. This is really important. So what value is it? Maybe it's some kind of guide. Hey, I see that you're this retail store owner in Allentown. I have this really great guide. Best ways to use Instagram to increase foot traffic to your store. I'd love to share it with you. Or, hey, I see that you're an industrial manufacturer. I have this really great article about the trends to look out for in 2021 in regards to industrial manufacturing. Or it could even be like a free webinar that you're putting on. Just always have a reason to reach out to people. So here's an example of what I did. I had this webinar about how to shift your business online at the beginning of COVID. I reached out to hundreds of people and said, hey, I see you're a consultant. I have this free webinar. I would love for you to join. What do you say? And about 48% of people accepted my invite, and a smaller number actually attended the webinar. But that's how I had an excuse to reach out to them with some kind of value. Don't just say, I'd love to connect so we can learn from each other. That's boring. That's why you should always have something available or planned that you can give away. So for me, that's why I have that free on-demand course now. I could say, hey, I see that you're a freelancer. I have this free course, how to get more clients. It's a 6-step marketing plan, so on and so forth. I'm reaching out with value. I'm not just saying, hey, would love to connect, because that's how you get ignored, right? You can also ask a genuine question or compliment. You can research this person, their business, what they've been up to, maybe a comment they recently made, and say, hey, I noticed you said this. You commented this on Simon Sinek's post. I appreciate your view on this, and I'd love to connect because of that. So fill in this, that, and that, and you'll be in a good spot. But this takes time because you're going deep with people. You're not just firing off random invites. So here's an example. This guy basically reached out and said, hey, Terry, did you mean to have a typo in your latest entrepreneur article? The answer is no, I just messed up. But Max realized that, and he's like, hey, did you do this on purpose? So he reached out with a very genuine question. This guy used automation and totally messed up. It said, hey, Terry, saw your article, type your message containing the common mistake on LinkedIn. It's really nice. I mean, this one, type your message containing the blah, 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 blah. That's when automation goes wrong. Wow. It's very clear he was being inauthentic. Yeah. It ninja'd my brain trying to figure out what the hell he was saying until I realized it made no sense. So that was the problem. But it also says the #1 LinkedIn marketer to follow in this person's title. So it makes me wonder who named this person #1 LinkedIn marketer to follow. But whatever, you get the point here. Don't be that person. Okay, stretch goal. We're wrapping up things here. Stretch goal. If you really want to rapidly grow your brand, your revenue, be seen as a thought opinion leader, interview relevant people in your industry. Say, I have this survey I'd love for you to fill out. What are you most concerned about promoting a SaaS company in the new normal? Get like 50 people to fill out this survey, compile the results as a PDF, it could be a talk, whatever it is. Share that with your audience. That's how you're gonna grow your brand. That's also how you're gonna meet these people and can potentially work with them going forward. So if you're a graphic designer, you can say, hey, going into 2021, how do you feel about changing your graphic look and feel to be a more socially aware company? Is this something you're concerned about? You have that connection, and then from there, you can share out the results and get recognized for it. This could be one of the fastest way to grow your brand, revenue, and network. So please consider this. It's super powerful. Quick example, this is one of my clients, Lindsay Howe. She is a pilot, and she realized only 6% of pilots are female. So she is now consulting flight schools on how to attract and retain more pilots. But to reverse engineer what success looks like, she leveraged LinkedIn to interview 50 female pilots and learn how they became successful. During that process, she actually got 4 solid leads, people saying, you should go to my flight school. They don't know what the hell they're doing. So just doing this research phase, she was able to land business. If you have questions about that, please do let me know, because it's one of the easiest ways to grow your brand and your revenue. You can also survey your audience, similar approach to build better products and services. So as I'm building my group coaching program, I reached out to 200 consultants and said, what's your biggest hurdle you face on a daily basis in regards to growing your consulting business? And I asked them to fill out a survey. So therefore, I could reverse engineer their problems and create the perfect course for them. And you can check out the survey here if you want to. Just ask me for the deck or whatever. But again, I asked them what their problems were, what a solution would look like, created a solution, and now that's what I'm selling. So again, make sure you have solutions that are directly related to problems that your audience has. Here's the easiest way to do it. And you're doing this all using LinkedIn for free. You have not spent any money yet. So that's pretty much what's going on there. Lastly, just play the long game. Don't just try to make a quick buck. Actually try to learn from people to grow relationships. And over time, I'm sure it'll be fulfilling. You know, you will make money, so on and so forth. But if you project lack or scarcity when you first reach out to someone, they're going to pick up on that so easily and not want to engage with you whatsoever. So just play the long game and focus on building relationships, not just revenue. Next steps, do all this stuff we talked about already. Keyword research, creating content, but don't get paralyzed by making it perfect. Just answer questions, engage with your audience, provide value when connecting, and just stick with it because you will find your rhythm over time. Well, that's me. I think I have like 3 minutes left for questions. Let me see if we have any that I can take on here. But if you want to reach out on Instagram, LinkedIn, there's a link to the course as well. But I know we went through a lot of content very quickly. How can I help out here?
I don't know if you addressed. I don't know if you already addressed this one by Dan Faulkner. How do we figure out our buckets? What questions do we ask ourselves?
It's more or less you saying, like, how do I want to be perceived by my target audience? What makes me, not like what's my unique differentiator for my business, but how do I want to brand myself outside of just my expertise? So for me, I always say mindfulness and physical health is very important. You'll also hear me talk about being a parent, and I'll just go into like my general personality as well. But it's just like, how do you want to be perceived by people? Wendy's saying, wow, my head. Is that a good wow, my head, or is that a bad one? I don't know. Paula, glad to hear you enjoyed it.
Well, I think I don't see any questions, but I guess I can start wrapping things up and saying thank you to while we get another question. Wendy said in a good way. Terry, this was really awesome. Honestly, you went through a lot of information in a very, very small amount of time, and definitely opened up. I'm pretty sure you opened up the world to a lot of people as to what they could do. So yeah, thank you very much for coming around. Do you have any final closing statements?
Yeah, 2 things. I mean, if you want to get a copy of the deck, just reach out to me one of these ways. But you have valuable knowledge to share, and you could be getting in your own way by thinking it has to be perfect when you iterate it, but just realize that you're hurting 2 people. One is yourself in regards to growing your brand, but you're also hurting the person who could really use your knowledge. So don't get your own way. Just start sharing that content. And when you get that positive feedback, take screenshots, save it, because you want to just reinforce like why and how you're providing value to people. So those will be my closing thoughts.
Awesome. Well, seeing as there are no more questions, no more slides, and almost no more time, I think we're done with the stream. But thank you, everyone who came. Thank you very much, Terry. Thank you for really putting in your time to build more connection among the freelance community across the country. And yeah, let's see everyone around, and hope whatever you're taking today is of value to you in your freelance careers and just life in general. So have a great day, everybody, and thank you very much, Terry.
Well, thanks, everybody.